So if you've been following me on social media, you know I recently painted my front door, and I needed a mat that was going to coordinate and brighten this and say welcome. So I decided to use this core mat I found at Target and use some of my favorite products from the Crafter's Workshop to dress this up and customize it. So stick around and find out how. Hi, Cheryl Boglioli here, and today we're going to customize this welcome mat for my front door. And I'm going to be using some of my favorite products from the Crafter's Workshop. And don't worry, I'm going to list all the supplies down below in the description. So make sure that you check it out and you can then customize your doormat also. So I'm using modeling paste, some stencil butter, stencils. Make sure that you've got some good palette knives, and let's just get going. Okay, so I have my core mat, which is just coconut fibers, and it is on my table, and I'm using a sign stencil called Welcome from the Crafter's Workshop. I'm using just regular masking tape, and I'm taping it down. While I don't usually tape down my stencils on paper, for this I definitely want to because I don't want it to move. And this coir mat is quite springy. So I've got it taped down really well, and I'm going to use my black modeling paste. I love this stuff. It is so black, and it's super thick. So I'm using a smaller palette knife right now, and I'm just using little bits at a time because I really want to push that modeling paste down into the fibers. And I'm going to peek real quick, take a peek. Oh, looking good. So I'm going to put it back down, and I'm going to go in. And again, I'm using this small knife, and I'm trying to be very careful that I don't shove it up underneath one of those points. And I realized partway through that it'll work better if I get a smaller palette knife. So I get the little tiny one that I have so I can really get in those edges. I check it again to make sure that it's working the way I want. And now I just continue to add that modeling paste in there. So I'm just using little bits and pieces at a time, as you can see, and just again pushing it through the stencils but not sliding it. So I'm just giving a little push and layering it like I'm icing on top of a cupcake. So I'm going to get this all in here, fill out the welcome, go back, make sure that you've got any little spots, and see how well that works. Let's take a peek. Ta-da! Look how great that really did come out. So now I'm going to just take some wipies and wipe off my palette knife, and then make sure that you also take your stencil with modeling paste and go put it in some water. So now I'm going to use Sunflower Row, another sign stencil by the Crafter's Workshop. Again, links are down below in the description. And I'm checking to make sure that it's lined up pretty much where I want it so that I can do a row all the way across and just flip it over. Again, I'm going to use the masking tape and tape it down so that it doesn't shift on me while I'm working with it, because this mat, like I said, is really springy. And I'm going to use some of the Crafter's Workshop Stencil Butters this time. So I'm using the Gamboge color right now. I love this bright yellow color. And again, I'm just using my small palette knife, and I'm giving just a little push to push it down into the fibers, and I'm just working on the sunflower petals. Continuing to add, being careful not to get caught up on any little points. So I'm checking just to see how it's working, and I realize partway through that I'm really not happy with how this is. It's not making really clean because the coir mat is so springy. I need something a little thicker. I thought the stencil butter would be thick enough to work on this mat, but I need something a little thicker. So I'm going to get my non-stick craft mat. I just swiped this off my Tim Holtz glass mat, and I'm going to mix clear modeling paste from the Crafter's Workshop with my Gamboge stencil butter, making sure to use a bigger palette knife right now and really work that in. Now I chose clear because the clear will not affect the color of that beautiful bright gamboge, where if I would have used white, it would have lightened it a little bit and made it pastel, and I didn't want to change the color at all. So now my stencil butter is even thicker, but it still has that same beautiful shine and that same bright color. So I'm just going to go back through now and add this to these petals, and this is working much nicer to be a thicker paste on this fiber from this mat. The coconut fibers just are really tough, and I'm not worried about how this is going to work on my porch. I can tell you that I've already had it out there for weeks, and it's rained, it's sunny, I'm in South Florida, and I have had no problem, and people coming in and out, so it's not damaged it from moisture, and it's held up really well, and that's why I wanted to use the modeling paste in something thicker rather than just paint and stencil it on with just paint. So I got all the little petals done, and now I'm going to come back in with the absolutely gorgeous chartreuse stencil butter. And again, I'm mixing it with the clear modeling paste to give me that extra body. So I cleaned off my knife and have added it to the back of the knife. And again, I'm just using tiny little palette knife here, pushing it through the stencil to get down into those fibers. And I'm filling in the areas where I have the stems, the leaves, and don't forget that little tiny bit of grass. That tiny grass border along the bottom is what helps ground your sunflowers and make it all part of it. So I'm just going to come back in here and go through and get all of these little petals and make sure that I get that little grass. And I'm keeping it fairly even. I don't want it too thick. I don't want too many peaks, but I want to get a good little bit that's pushed down into the mat so it can hold up very well. So we're just going to continue to add this. Now, the yellow is starting to dry a little bit, not too much. It will take a little bit of time for your modeling paste to dry, and with the stencil butter added in there. But this is why I'm working in sections. So right now I'm going to add the green, and I still have to go back and add the little kernels of the sunflower seeds and add some color there. So we'll just continue to add this lovely chartreuse green. It is so bright and summery, and this looks absolutely fabulous on my door. So making sure to get all the little areas, wipe off my palette knife, and now I'm going to use the copper modeling paste. I love the copper. So I'm just taking a tiny bit, pushing it into the centers of all my sunflowers and adding that little pop of copper color and bringing my stencils to life, bringing my little sunflowers to life. So let's take a peek. All right, I felt like I need a little bit more there. Yes. So let's move everything out of the way so that I don't knock it over. Look at those sunflowers. I am so excited. So basically, I just took the stencil and I moved it over to the other side, making sure to tape it back down again, and repeated the same process. So you see I'm just going back in with my little gamboge yellow, following up with the chartreuse green, and then coming back and adding that little bit of copper into the centers of the sunflowers again. Making sure each time that you clean your palette knife in between so that you don't mix your colors. On the sunflowers, a little bit of mixture wouldn't have been too bad, but I wanted to keep everything nice and neat. And voila! Now I have this beautiful little mat that I can put out by my front door. So here it is, all finished. I am loving it. So thanks for watching. I hope that you'll come back and see and try making your own mat. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again.